Morning, welcome to the program. Our first interview for the morning is with you, Advocate Paul Hoffman. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. And I guess the all-important question is, this was an expected outcome, was it not?
Oh, absolutely. It's been a long time coming. We were complaining, as Accountability Now, we were complaining about the incompetence and the mendacity of Advocate Mkhwebane as long ago as, listen to this, January 2017. She'd been in office for 2 months when she exposed her lack of competence and her tendency to lie to people. And I'm afraid she didn't change her spots. And she has, at long last, been called out on it. And I'm sure that the conclusion to which Parliament came will withstand any review proceedings that her few remaining supporters may seek to bring before the courts of the land.
She's threatened to go to the ICC to clear her name and possibly also seek some sort of compensation for being voted out of office. Do you think she has a leg to stand on at all?
No, I believe that the committee has done its work thoroughly and properly, that it has had proper regard to the mountain of evidence against her. It has not regarded the judgments of the courts against Mkhwebane as mere opinions, which is what was argued on her behalf. It has recognized that in our constitutional order, a judgment of a court binds the people to whom it applies. So when the Constitutional Court says that perjury has been committed by Advocate Mkhwebane, then that is not something you can wave away, as she sought to do, as a mere opinion. It is a binding finding of a court, and these binding findings have been approached in the correct way by the committee, which inevitably led to her impeachment in the vote yesterday.
What do you make of her action last week when she decided to go back to work, to go back to the office, and she arrived there with some of her supporters? I kind of felt embarrassed on her behalf, and I thought to myself, really? Does one actually go to those lengths? And I was wondering what sort of a point was she making. It must have been very embarrassing for her, or maybe just didn't even think along those lines. As far as she's concerned, in her mind, it is her right. She needed to be there. She wanted to be there, and she was making probably, in her mind, a very, very strong statement.
Well, I think that she was involved in a really desperate effort to get her hands on the 10 million rand gratuity that is payable to a retiring public protector. And of course, she is also concerned to preserve her pension rights as a former public protector. You don't get the gratuity and you don't get the pension if you are removed from office. So she was rather artificially contending that because the parliamentary process had run its course and the panel inquiring into her had presented its report, that her suspension by the president had come to an end, which is a totally artificial argument and was seen as such. She was sent packing, and correctly so. It's more desperation, I think, than making big statements. It really shows that she doesn't quite understand how the system works.
What does this all say about this case in particular and in future similar sort of scenarios? Because here she was at the beginning of all of this drama playing out. I think the The process involved an amount of 4.5 million rands as her legal costs. And then, of course, with all of the delays, and I'm going to ask you to explain why that was allowed to happen with the ongoing delays. It's unbelievable. I'm not a legal eagle in any sense of the word, but I was stumped by the way her legal team kept using all forms of delaying tactics just to push this further and further and further into the future. At the end of the day, we've been given two costs. The one is suggesting that her legal costs, ballooned to 30 million rands, but I've also come across an amount of 160 million rands. I don't know if that is some form of exaggeration, but you as an advocate, surely um, I imagine common sense should have prevailed and something should have happened. Something should have happened as far as the prosecution is concerned. And they should have put their foot down way back and said, this is getting out of hand. You are using delaying tactics and it is costing the taxpayers unnecessary money that we can ill afford. That money could have gone to creating employment or some such thing. How do you
Quite.
see all of that, Advocate?
Yes. Now let's just unpack those numbers first. The 30 million is what it cost to run that inquiry. Now, had Parliament responded to the complaint that Accountability Now laid in January 2017, as it should have, because the Justice Portfolio Committee in Parliament is the body responsible for oversight of the Office of the Public Protector. Our complaint was very simple. We've caught her lying quite clearly, and we have evidence that she is incompetent in the way that she's going about her work. Now, if that simple complaint had been properly dealt with in 2017, she wouldn't have been allowed to continue to wreak havoc and lose review proceedings again and again because her reports were legally flawed. She didn't quite know how to do her work. So the ballooning of the costs is not only her fault for mounting what is called a Stalingrad defense and spending 30 million rand in the process, which is really quite unconscionable in a country that is busy running out of money. But she also, because she was allowed to continue in office until the president suspended her just over a year ago, she continued to behave in a way that was not in accordance with the mandate that her office is given by the Constitution and the enabling legislation. And so the 160 million rand is the estimate of the costs that were incurred because an incompetent and dishonest person was allowed to continue in office after we had raised the red flag 2 months into her term of office. So, yes, you're quite right. Stalingrad strategies need to be dealt with sternly and proactively, and the amount of costs that have been incurred in this matter have really been out of all proportion to what could have been the case had Parliament been a little bit more proactive, a little bit more efficient, a little bit more accountable in the way in which it dealt with the initial complaint made, which related to that Reserve Bank and Absa Bank review, in which she was for the first time found to have lied on oath by Justice Sisi Kampepe in the majority judgment of the Constitutional Court in that matter. That should have been the end of it. The Legal Practice Council should have struck her off the roll in 5 minutes. The prosecution service should have charged her with perjury. The perjury case is still wending its way slowly through the court, Legal Practice Council is sitting on its hands and doing nothing. These are the reasons why those big numbers that you have found in the coverage have been incurred as expenses of the taxpayer, which ought not to have been incurred had the matter been dealt with more efficiently.
Okay, Advocate, we're going for our first ad break. Please do stand by. We'll talk with you, continue this very serious discussion in a minute or two. So please do stand by.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world, where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain development company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
Education, health, dignity, empowerment. These wishes all begin with water. Africa Muslims Agency is committed to providing clean water to the thousands who still live without this basic human right. Support us in giving the best of charities. Provide a water well for 14,800 Rand or a borehole for 49,500 Rand in Afghanistan or 55,000 Rand in Africa. Gain Thawabi Jariyah and help communities to reach their full potential. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Conveniently located along the banks of the Crocodile River bordering the Kruger National Park, as a guest at Buckler's Africa Lodge, one can enjoy an amazing sunrise or sunset on our spacious deck area while you catch a glimpse of some wildlife sightings along the Crocodile River. The sound of the African savannah will greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Buckler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa with us.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian.
8:20 a.m. news and views on Salam Media, and the big story of the day is undoubtedly the issue around Busisiwe Mkhwebane, the first public protector to be removed from office. We're talking with Advocate Paul Hoffman from Accountability Now. Advocate, back to you. There's so many questions, and I guess the first one, let's start with the issue around why did Parliament drag their heels? Did they not understand the gravity of the situation, or did they just not apply their minds? Obviously, there aren't any legal minds. There may be a few, but I'm kind of wondering, did they not seek legal advice on the issue for them to have dragged their heels for this long?
I'm afraid initially the matter was dealt with on a political basis. So the status that Mkhwebane enjoyed as the appointee of President Zuma, and remember, President Zuma appointed her to make up for the terrible mistake that he made against himself when he appointed Thuli Madonsela as the predecessor to Busisiwe Mkhwebane. His caucus, his ANC caucus in Parliament, worked on the basis that Advocate Mkhwebane should be treated as royal game and that no complaints about her should be entertained, either by the oversight body, which is the Justice Portfolio Committee, or by a specially constituted panel. And that continued until the DA took up the cudgels in, I think it was 2019 or 2020, but certainly long after we complained in January 2019. January 2017 was the 2 months into her term of office. We were already waving a red flag over her mendacity and her incompetence. So if you are prepared as the majority party in Parliament to ignore complaints that are made and simply not answer follow-up letters that are sent, then you can indeed prolong the term of office of a specially picked public protector, and that is what has happened with Busisiwe Mkhwebane until the Zuma presidency came to a premature end in February 2018, and then things changed, and the political protection that she was being afforded by the supine attitude of the Justice Portfolio Committee and by the failure of the National Assembly to pay attention to just how much of the 160 million rand was being incurred unnecessarily, and just how badly the public protector was doing in acquitting herself of the mandate that the Constitution gives to the Office of the Public Protector to investigate, report on, and take remedial action of a binding kind against those who paint outside the lines in the affairs of state, in the public administration, and under the Executive Ethics Act, in the executive branch of government, in which the public protector really works as the policeman of the executive. If you have an executive-minded public protector, then the system doesn't work quite as it should.
How can we as mere mortals and lay people ever have any confidence in our politicians if this is the way the ruling party and politicians in general run the country? A really sad state of affairs, and gosh, no confidence at all. But still a few more questions. We've got a boy, Kanyo Mabe, who's posted a few comments, and this is what he has to say. 3 comments. First one saying, "This is so sad." Second comment, "Do not despair, Advocate Mkhwebane. History has no blank pages." Not quite sure what that means. And last but not least, everyone errs in their profession. I don't believe that your case is impeachable. Thank you indeed for your comments. Advocate, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I'm afraid this is not a case of a person erring. We all make mistakes. Let's face it. We are human.
Of course.
But this is a case of a person not understanding what her job entails and of behaving dishonestly in the way that she has tried to do her job to please the executive branch of government. And that, I'm afraid, is an impeachable offense. What is expected of the public protector in terms of the Constitution is that she should act without fear, favor, or prejudice in acquitting herself of her task. And she has not done this. She's not done this in any way, shape, or form during the course of tenure of office. And that is why the panel and Parliament in its vote yesterday were quite right to say, enough of this. You are not a fit and proper person to be our public protector. You must go. You must forfeit your gratuity, and you must forfeit your pension because you have been removed from office prior to the expiration of your single fixed term of 7 years. She wasn't up to the task. She shouldn't have been appointed in the first place. But Mr. Zuma wanted to be very sure that he didn't have another Thuli Madonsela sinking her teeth into him for the things that he was doing wrong that were all exposed by the Zondo Commission of Inquiry.
So, Advocate, let's look at the issue around Thuli Madonsela, and I'm a great admirer of the woman. But prior to her leaving office, should she not have sketched out and made Busisiwe understand the exact scope of her role as public protector? Because clearly it seems that Busisiwe didn't have a clue of what her outcomes should have been.
Yes, I'm afraid that the handover was not conducted in a way that is conducive to good governance, but it is not the function of the outgoing public protector to train the incoming public protector. They are all expected to be professional people who understand the enabling legislation of the public protector's office and have a grasp of the mandate of the public protector as set out in our constitution. You remember that we didn't have Chapter 9 institutions in the old South Africa, and that very few countries have as many Chapter 9 institutions as we have. We decided in the foundational phase of the new South Africa that it would be appropriate for us to have Chapter 9 institutions to support constitutional democracy. Our founders understood that people in South Africa had lived under an authoritarian regime as passive subjects for many, many decades, and that what we are setting out to do with the new constitution is to become active citizens who participate in their democratic order. So creating an office that you can go to for free. All the services of the public protector do not cost the taxpayer as an individual complainant 1 cent. You can go there and say, I am the victim of maladministration. I see bad governance in the following aspects. Set it all out on a piece of paper or in an email even. And the public protector has to respond to that, to accept or reject the complaint, and if it's accepted, to investigate, report, and take remedial action. It's not a difficult mandate in terms of its scope and its content, but it is important that the public protector should understand that his job, is to protect the public, not to protect wrongdoers in the executive or in the public service, in the affairs of state. That is their job. Other Chapter 9 institutions look after our elections, after our human rights, after our gender issues, and so on. Those are institutions that we ought to cherish as South African citizens, because many countries do not have the kind of infrastructure that has been built into our constitution. And if we despair of our politicians, we are entitled to change them every 5 years. We get a vote in what is required to be a free and fair election. And when voting, one should be astute to vote for politicians who understand the Constitution and realize that they are accountable to the people and that they are there to serve the public rather than to enrich themselves.
Are Chapter 9 institutions the place we go to as whistleblowers? And will we get the kind of protection that we require during this process, as the process plays out?
Yes, in the case of whistleblowers, it is the National Prosecuting Authority who decides who is a whistleblower and who is a witness who is not going to be used in a criminal case. And the protection of whistleblowers at the moment is only for those who the prosecution has decided are going to be witnesses in cases. That is inadequate protection, and the form of protection of whistleblowers that is now under consideration in Parliament in new legislation that is coming out will expand the protection of whistleblowers. I'm afraid whistleblowers are the lifeblood of anti-corruption work in South Africa, but they are also an endangered species because they run the risk of adverse consequences because they blow the whistle.
Okay, Boikanyo,
including assassination,
we've got another message, but we're going to take that in a minute or two. So, Boikanyo, we'll take your message in a minute or two. Let's get back to the subject at hand. Busisiwe's legal team, were they ethical in handling the case the way they did? We often hear, with due respect to you, Advocate, that lawyers are out to make money, big money. So in this instance, were they ethical enough? Were they giving her the right advice? I mean, she herself is an advocate. She would have known whether she's being guided in the right direction. How do you see this?
I'm afraid a lot of the tactics and a lot of the time wasting and a lot of the obfuscation that took place during the course of that hearing is ethically questionable. And it is the job of the General Counsel of the Bar and the job of the Legal Practice Council to discipline lawyers who paint outside the lines in the way in which they are defending people. Certainly, some of the points that were taken were not sound in law. They were called out whenever there was a foray into the courts relating to the case. Busisiwe Mkhwebane lost, and that is an indication that things could have been better handled during the case.
2 or 3 more very important questions coming your way, and then we'll definitely leave you to get on with what you need to. When Busisiwe went back to work, how efficient or productive was she with this case hanging over her? Do we know if there were any cases that she worked on and that we had, as a public, the outcomes, favorable outcomes as far as the cases she worked on during her time, with the case hanging over her?
I don't have intimate knowledge of every case that she worked on in the office, and it is a big office, and there are lots of people doing the day-to-day work of the office. But as far as I'm concerned, it was revealed to me in direct interaction with her in January 2017 that she is incompetent and dishonest. And you cannot have an incompetent and dishonest person in a position such as that of the public protector. It's almost like having a judge who has never seen a law book. It's not an appropriate way of governing a country. So I have very skeptical view of any good that she may have done during the course of the period that she was in office before she was suspended and then impeached.
What sort of precedent has been set by this outcome?
I think it's a good precedent, because what has happened is that the rule of law has held. It's a bad precedent in this sense that it took Parliament far too long to pay attention to those who were waving the red flag and saying, look out, this one is not competent, not prepared to do her work honestly. And that is not what we want in the leadership of the Office of the Public Protector. So in the end, the rule of law has prevailed, but in the process, there was far too much delay, and certainly not enough attention paid to the complaints that were lodged with the appropriate oversight body, which is the Office of the Public Protector, of the Justice Portfolio Committee, which looks after the oversight of the Office of the Public Protector.
Our final question then is from our listener and viewer, and that, of course, is you, Boikanyo Mabe. This is the question, Advocate Hoffman. What is your stance on the DPP? Do you think if enrolled as a public protector, she will do better and redeem the dignity of the office?
I'm afraid that the track record of the DPP, the Deputy Public Protector, who's now on the inside track to be the successor to Mkhwebane, is one of a person who has worked for the executive or the National Prosecuting Authority before working as the Deputy Public Protector. So while she has experience of the job, my fear is that she is going to have to find a way to overcome her executive mindedness and to develop her independence so that she can really acquit herself of her task without fear, favor, or prejudice. It seems likely that she will muster the necessary 60% of the votes on the 21st of September, and that she will be our next public protector, despite opposition parties not being prepared to support her candidature. I would like to see this office occupied by people with a track record of objectivity and independence, rather than a track record of service to the executive branch of government, which is the track record of the DPP. So let's hope that she is able to rise to the occasion, but it's something to watch with care.
Thank you indeed. Accountability. Now, Advocate Paul Hoffman, lovely talking with you for your deep insights. We wait till the next time when something else bubbles up, when we need your insights and expertise on these matters, legal matters. Go well, God bless. And of course, also a big thank you to our listener and viewer, Boikanyo Mabe, for raising some very relevant issues. Till the next time, go well.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good day.
It's exactly 8:39. News and views on Salam Media, standing by to talk with us. Not quite sure. Oh, here we go. My producer's just given me a brief. We are going to be talking with Thabo Maisela, Special Advisor to the Executive Mayor, on the inner city regeneration. About time, isn't it? I'm sure you all will agree with me. And this, of course, deals with the Joburg city's neglect, allowing slumlords to retake buildings. So what we're looking at here is planned evictions that keep hitting snags. Oh, goodness me, how's that going to play out? Stay with us. We'll be unpacking this matter in a minute or two.